But really what I would like to say with my work is that there's no right or wrong way to make art, and that art is so healing, and that art is for everyone, and there's no wrong or right way to do it. And I mean, you can do anything really. I feel like the way that I create is so loose, and so I hope that translates in something more than just art. Like, this can be a metaphor to life, you know. It's like you can create your own reality in a way.
You know, I've always imagined what it would be like to be a full-time artist, possibly a painter, sculptor, musician, or something of the sort, being engulfed by my creations. Well, today, I get to sit down with a real artist, Stephanie Gonzalez, from the Deer Slug Studio, located on the east side of downtown Houston. She's a very talented and sought-after mixed media abstract artist who has a love for playing the guitar, an affinity for vanilla ice cream, and a big heart. And on the Cream Talk podcast, recorded on location in the creamery where all the goodness happens, where all the sweetness and the wonderful flavors are created. I sit down to find out what's on people's minds, what's on top of their day, and what's on top of their heart. So let's talk with the one and only Stephanie Gonzalez. So, start the show.
Okay.
Tell us your name.
My name is Stephanie Gonzalez.
Stephanie Gonzalez, and I've had the pleasure of seeing some of your work, and you do some amazing things. And what I first noticed is that you do some pretty big pieces.
Mostly large scale.
And you're a pretty small person.
Yeah, people tend to have that response when they see the artist behind the work.
Yes, you do some big art.
Right,
beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful, yes.
They're always surprised to see that I'm just 5'1".
Yeah, it's cool. And I'm just picking at you. Okay, so when did this love for painting first start? And I know your talents had a few other things. We'll go into that later. But when did the love for painting?
Well, I grew up in Mexico. I grew up in somewhat of a kind of hostile environment. I started painning actually because of Bob Ross.
Bob Ross,
the Afro. Oh, wow. So my mother would drop us off at my grandparents' house, which they basically raised us, and my grandparents are retired. Okay. So my grandfather is no longer with us, but he's the reason why he would watch Bob Ross at like 5 a.m. Yes. So when all the kids were out for summer, my mother would drop us off at my grandparents, and you know, we really had no choice but to just hang out at my grandparents. And my grandpa would wake up at 5 a.m. and he had hearing issues, so he would play Bob Ross really, really loud. Oh, wow. And so as a kid, I kind of just started going in there to his room, and I started playing around with you know, all the videos that he would play, you know, how to do a landscape and such. And eventually I found that, you know, I could escape in the work. And so whenever we weren't at my grandparents and we would go back home, it was the only way to kind of escape anything that was, you know, if anyone was having an argument or anything like that. Yes. I really found like something great in all that hostile environment. I just went inward, and I started creating because of Bob Ross. Wow. Those videos, yeah.
I noticed you had one of your pieces called Floating.
Right, it's an installation. That one is actually titled Floating, Feelings of Anxiety and Letting Go.
That resonated with me.
called it floating. Feelings, say it again.
Feelings of anxiety and letting go.
Where did that come from? What inspired you?
So recently I received my master's from HBU, which is a Houston Baptist University. So that installation was a result of me going to school there. I was kind of forced to choose between my work and my relationship, and I ended up going through a breakup. And so that was kind of a result of me having to realize that if something's meant to be, that it will, and you know, you have to let go. And it was me kind of choosing, like, I feel like we can all relate to the idea and the feeling of anxiety. Yes. And that can come in so many ways, so many forms, but that's where it came from. I mean, mostly it was me trying to expand my visual vocabulary. I was trying to do something 3D. So that installation, it's plaster forms that are suspended from the ceiling and then some are on the floor. So they represent that feeling of like floating around, not knowing where things are going to go, but being in a different state of mind where you understand that, you know, you kind of have to follow your gut and, you know, put yourself first in order to, if you're not happy, you know, nothing's going to work out. And so that's kind of where that came from. It was a really painful time, but it was also a growing time for me because I let go of that, and then from that hurt came that installation.
Someone is madly in love, the art comes out. Someone goes through some traumatic pain, the art comes out. But what about the in-between? What do you do in those lulls where you don't feel as creative? Is there any tricks to snap you into a creative mood, or are you always just making these beautiful pieces that you make?
Well, I'll tell you right now that I'm actually trying to figure that out as we speak, because I've always been in between. Okay. You know, I've always been very much in love or very much heartbroken, but now that I'm 31, I understand things differently. And so rather than dwelling on pain or you know, just being completely absorbed by good. And what I mean is, I don't just like put my relationship first. Like, there's a balance now. And so I don't know, and I'm trying to figure it out, but I will tell you what helps is, you know, sometimes you just have to go out and find the inspiration when you're not in love and you're not heartbroken. I mean, I would say that I'm kind of in between.
But that's a good tip. It makes a lot of sense. Like with me, like I said, the way I express myself best is through the writing. And you're right. Sometimes I have to just find or just put myself in there.
Seek it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you seek it out.
So how does one make a name for themselves in the art world? What do you have to do to get to where you are now?
I would say the most important thing is just to kind of stay hungry and, you know, take any opportunity that you can get. I think as the time passes on, you're able to kind of weed out what you want to do and what you don't want to do. But I think that at the beginning, it's important to just kind of take any opportunity you can get. I mean, you know, doing markets, or I think nowadays we're really lucky to have social media. And I feel like the work really speaks for itself. So if you have some sort of web page or, you know, Instagram, you can just, you know, let somebody know what your handle is. And if they like the work, then, you know, the work's going to speak for itself. So it is a lot of hustle. And I just would say don't give up. Yeah. And don't worry about, what do you call it, recognition from an institution. I mean, sure, that's really great, but I think that as long as you stay true to yourself and true to your work and you're passionate about your work, passion translates and you can see it so far away.
Yeah, that's true.
That's always going to come in front of anything, and people will see that.
They will.
Yeah.
Some of the very elaborate pieces that Stephanie creates made me wonder, how long did it take her to come up with that? Here's her answer.
A work of art is never finished. It's just abandoned.
With that being said, I hope you all go out there and take your desires, create, be great, because you do have a story that the world wants to hear, some art that the world wants to see. In this interview with Stephanie, I learned about desire and belief and inspiration and how we can use those things to heal and to help others heal. So until next time, this is Cream Talk. Peace.